All right, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Canada Today Youth Edition. This is your brother Muhammad Maxwell Hassan right here on Muslim Network TV, and today's topic is more timely than ever in terms of this whole COVID-19 world. You know, nowadays everyone's in isolation. A good chunk of us are. We're looking at a screen, fixated on pixels, and it's tiring, and it gets to a point where you're saying we almost lack the face-to-face, or we almost forget even what it's like to actually have dinner with someone, to have go out to lunch, or even have a coffee break. Like, I mean, these things are, even though it's something that we may have taken for granted a while ago, nowadays it's almost like we kind of have to relearn it in a way. So here to talk to us about social skills, mashallah, another recurring guest here, Brother Taha Ansari. Mashallah, man, this brother, he's got a strong passion. He's got a strong passion to volunteer and help others grow and excel. Just overall, mashallah, I got to tell you, just I guess, aside from the whole bio per se, I just got to tell you, he's very down to earth, mashallah, man. Brother Taha is just very down to earth, willing to help out wherever he can. He's got that $1 million smile on his face at all times. Look at that. See what I'm saying? MashaAllah. But, he's, just to kind of give you a sense for the viewers here, he's led creative teams of youth. He used to be the head of marketing for Al Maghrib Institute, where he worked alongside the likes of Sheikh Muhammad Al Sharif and Sheikh Yasir Qadri. MashaAllah, he's helped out with Sayyidah Khadija Center. And overall, he's just lend a helping hand in so many different capacities. Plenty of opportunities for social skills. So Jazakallah khairan, Brother Taha, for stopping by once again to enlighten us on this whole conversation of social skills. Now, I want to kick things off. I always like to kind of get things, just to make sure we're on the same page. Just everyone, the viewers, myself, yourself, everybody, just to make sure we're all on the same page. How would you define social skills? I mean, everybody has their own take on it, but what do you mean when you say social skills? And then we'll carry the conversation from there.
Definitely. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair for having me back again. It's always a pleasure. And may Allah reward you guys for, these amazing efforts that you guys, put through. So to start off, we have to ask ourselves, what's the basic definition of social skills? And obviously, different people may have different definitions, but to keep it very simple, it's more or less just how we interact with one another. That's the fundamentals of what social skills are. And based on that, just to top that up, it's the way we interact with one another. Those behaviors, when done appropriately, really leads to how others judge how socially competent we are. And part of success and part of growth and, just becoming successful in life, more or less just really comes down to how competent do others perceive you? And that's really where, this whole element of your social skills really comes through. So that would be just a very quick 10,000 feet level definition of what I think social skills are.
Interesting. So it's all about interactions. But I like what you said as well in terms of it's about how people perceive you, how competent you are. If you're born with a silver spoon in your mouth, and you're just eloquent in your speech and the way you're talking, people can look and say, "Oh, okay, this person's onto something," right? But then again, if you can't talk yourself out of a paper bag, then at the end of the day, people might look and say, maybe this person's inept. But let's unpack that a bit more. Do you feel like people maybe tend to? Is there like a element of judging, like that maybe is stepping over the lines, like when you're meeting someone for the first time, and let's just say they're stammering, or let's just say they trip over their feet, so to speak, like how do you mitigate that, or how do you set aside your own judgment, or what do you make of that?
It's a beautiful topic. So on that note, I'm actually going to pause for a second and let's bring the Quran in, because we're Muslim. Right. So everything we do, we go back to the Quran and the Hadith. So, this is Surah Taha, verse 25 to 28 is Musa alayhi salam's dua. Right. It's like I have it in front of me, like in English is, "My Lord, open for me my chest and ease my task for me. out from my tongue and that they understand my speech. So I wasn't expecting that question, but it's beautifully asked. And the verses in front of us that we had a prophet, peace be upon him, that made a dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to untie their knots. So what that tells us, and things that we'll basically unravel and discuss a bit more as we move forward, is speech and how we communicate and our social skills are learned behavior. Some people, subhanallah, are just born with the skills of being able to just take things and deliver it in a very structured manner. They're very eloquent in how they go forward and how they basically deliver the content, which is easily ingested by the audience. But some people, like myself, who have struggled with this when they were young. I was an introvert, and then slowly, my stuttering, even when I used to read the Quran or when I used to read like just any literature, it took practice. Being a learned skill, when the more you practice, when I say practice makes perfect, it slowly helped me. When you do something enough times, you fail, but you fail fast and you learn faster. And then slowly but surely, it's something that you're able to get past. Now, if you are scared of failure and you are scared to kind of get outside your boundary, that comfort zone that you've created for yourself, you're never going to get to that growth. So be okay with this, because we're just humans. We're just regular individuals. But now we have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look at the beauty that it's mentioned in the Quran. This is not just something that I'm doing. Go look up Surah Taha, verse 25 to 28, and this is a dua made by a prophet to help him with his speech. So when I see that, coming back to your question, it's always being that person we're saying, how can I help? Because that's part of the social skills that you have. It's not just one way; it's two way. If someone else is having difficulties and they're stuttering, that's kind of where you need to level up. And you need to see, okay, how can I actually, forward my hand and help that particular individual so I can teach them something. And when you teach people things, that is the best way of learning. And it's a form of positive reinforcement for both parties.
MashaAllah, brother Taha from Surah Taha. Wow, you can't make this up, man. This is a coincidence. This is mashallah beyond coincidence. But subhanAllah, the ayah that you were referring to, man, the dua of Musa alayhi salam, right? Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. It's ingrained in my mind, man, because I'm like, subhanAllah, just expand will be known. Mashallah, there you go. So a prophet. You think that in order for prophets to communicate, they got to be the best of the best to communicate. And mashallah, you had Musa alayhi salam as a prime example of asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help. It's not just kind of here you go, given and born with it. You had to work towards that. MashaAllah, very good point. Now, let's take it to today's time. Let's say, based on your observations, generally speaking, among the Muslim youth, I know you touched just now saying that you considered yourself an introvert beforehand and kind of keeping to yourself. What have you noticed, generally speaking, in terms of Muslim youth today? I know now with the pandemic, it's hard to kind of make that assessment, but maybe even still with the Zoom meetings, with all the things that you've seen, what have you noticed in terms of the youth and their social skills? Let's say I don't want to paint everyone with the same brush, but let's just say on a scale of 1 to 10, on average, you pick a random Muslim youth from the street or anywhere, what would you rate them in terms of like their ability to communicate?
So it's difficult to particularly rate where they stand as a whole, but I can give you scenario based. So my neighbor actually was telling me a couple of days ago that one of the kids in the class was talking about how they really appreciate work, like studying from home, where they don't have to interact with other people. And if they have any problems, they don't have to share with anyone else. They don't want the fear of being judged or just the whole aspect of dealing with their own anxiety, etc. But keeping in mind that these are grade 5, grade 6 students, it was very troubling. And the question came up, well, what will happen when you grow older? It's like, oh, it's okay. You can still be, look at everyone else now. They're working from home. They don't need to interact. Now, it really boils down when I'd say, rather than try to say if it's a 4, 5, 6, or 7, because people range, I would rather say, what's the most important reason for us to discuss this topic today? So the way I would say is it's more or less the quality of our life. We want to have a good quality of life, and how do we get a good quality of life? It's by being happy. And how do we get happy? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us in pairs. We aren't seldom creatures. We were created to, move in tribes and in groups. That's the beauty of us humans. We aren't hermits, like the hermit crab that can live all its life. Us as humans, we don't operate in that manner. So that being said, when you are able to work on your communication, even at a very basic level, you have the ability of building good relationships. You have the ability of, building, and as you get older, you polish those skills, it helps you with employment. So I was actually reading up on this thing just to kind of like touch upon this without deviating too much is if you look at the most successful people, you will notice a trend like Tony Robinson or Gary Vee, or look at our very own Mehdi Hassan, that all-star, right? What are they really good at? They're really good at communicating, and that's one of their social skills, right? Their ability, which I can touch upon later, the different the components that come with social skills, their ability of mesmerizing people and having that conversation, being likable, being a leader, being an influencer, it really just helps us, succeed at life. So some of the most successful or the most successful people had the greatest social skills. So if you are a youth and you're watching this at any given time, inshallah, the one takeaway I want you to have from this particular moment is hone in on your social skills, because that's going to be monumental for you. And if you want prime examples, look at Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He had the best social skills out there. There were so many conflicts at the time when Islam was new and coming, and his social skills allowed tribes to come together. The treaties that he had, the wars that happened, and the way he avoided so much, and he brought harmony amongst all these different kabilas. You just look into the seerah of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and you'll see that one of the best things that he had was his social skills. That's how people came to him. So that's what I'd say, rather than just being quiet and reserved and keeping to yourself just because work from home allows it. Look into different channels that you can communicate, be it Zoom, be it different social gatherings, which may just be virtual. Or worst case, if you're not talking to anyone, read in to books that help you with your soft skills, because hard skills anyone can learn. So I'll keep it to that, and I'll pass it back to you.
Sure, man. No, man, I hear you. I want to piggyback off of that because, man, it really baffles me, especially when you think it's troublesome. When you mention grade 5, grade 6, 10, 11-year-olds are like, hey, it was almost a dream come true. I don't know about you, like growing up, I always thought of that. Imagine not having to physically go to class. It's just like you roll out of bed and boom, you're in class. You think this is a dream come true, and man, when you live the reality, sometimes be careful what you wish for, right? You know what I mean? So I hear what you're saying, and these, especially with that developmental age, the young ones. I'm really thinking about the young brothers and sisters, the small ones, and trying to grow up and get older, and then if they haven't gotten their foundation set, then who knows? It's worrisome to some degree. But I hear you, mashallah, loud and clear, like in terms of it's a case by case. But I like how you're mentioning that just because we're in isolation doesn't necessarily mean that we have to forego a lot of our stuff. You can still read up on things. You can still practice. You can still keep that skill set sharpened. Now, if I can take it to you in terms of, let's say we broaden it out to the workplace, mashallah, you're an agile coach, or you've had quite extensive experience with that, and especially in the tech world. I don't know. I don't mean to, I'm just not reporting what I see, but it's fun, I guess, to poke at some things in terms of the tech world that maybe not, if there's some truth to this, that maybe the tech world isn't renowned for its superb communicative skills, right? Like, it's tech, right? So in the workplace that you've been, and and the settings that you've been in, the context that you've been in, how has social skills and that development have helped you out tremendously? Could you pick out certain examples, any particular things that you're like, man, because I really learned this, it really made my life easier, and it was a-okay?
Definitely. So in the tech world, as you get into computer science, and you're basically just working with machines, talking to machines day in, day out. I mean, seeing my father basically be in the tech world ever since I was a kid, it's always just like, talking to servers, talking to different like applications, etc. You didn't really need to talk to people. You had a problem, a bunch of people would get together and they would just like, go forward and then fix it. But now in the age we live in, things are moving so fast that this constant feedback is super important. So, without getting too technical, because it's not the realm of this thing, but like when you look at, and I'll tell the youth and everyone else to look at like what cloud computing and, these topics called continuous integration and continuous deployment is, things like Amazon doing multiple changes on a daily basis, and you have no clue that changes are happening. But those changes are happening because these feedbacks are being received and being implemented. Now, going back to the people, which is so important, I'd say what happens at work can also be applied at home, is your job or your specific skill sets may not require you to talk, but the future is changing. Humans will never be replaced, and hard skills are basically becoming easier and easier to attain. You don't need to go to, like, obviously university is very important. I encourage everyone to go to college and university, get a post-secondary education, but you can learn a lot of these hard skills on YouTube and other online platforms. The one thing that's very difficult to learn are soft skills. Soft skills, when you understand the power of getting the right people in the room, you can solve any problems, be it very trivial to super complex. It's just so powerful when you get the right people and you ask the right questions. Now, that really happens by really understanding the energy of the room. Really I'd try to break it down to two different things. There is the nonverbal aspect of social skills, and then there is the verbal aspect of the social skills. And more engineers, more and more management, and just overall everyone is really like getting onto these soft skills aspect, which is the nonverbal part would be like when you look at my, for example, facial expression, when I'm talking to you, when I'm moving my hands, right? My eye contact with you. Now, if I was to simply just like, pull my hand back and keep it very monotone and say, okay, today's topic is going to be about X, Y, and Z, versus I'm more engaged with you and forget about me talking. These are the nonverbal cues that you pick up on the other person. It's very important to take that into account. And then the next thing is the verbal thing, is the actual aspect of how you talk. Understanding the energy, understanding what to say, when to say, and pretty much the execution aspect of it. So now the industry is slowly paying attention to that. And I would tell, obviously, those who are in the industry know this, and those that are young or are aspiring to, get into one of the whatever positions, as you grow towards a management position, an upper management position, you'll find out that it's less technical things, less hard skills that you need to have. And it's more soft skills that you need to have, more people skills you need to have, because that's what really deals with conflict resolution. That's really deals with bringing people together, finding solutions, resolving, discontent and disagreements amongst parties. So the higher you go up there, the more it becomes social skills. The lower you are, the more it becomes redundant tasks that you can do and then become a subject matter expert. So I'd say that kind of like, goes all the way back to the heart of social skills. If you become good at understanding people's need by simply going to them saying, hey, how can I help you? And make it a two-way thing, make it more about them, you'll notice the conversation will flow so good. And then it will help you listening more, talking less, understanding the person's needs, and then just polishing yourself from there. And that's pretty much where the industry is going.
I see. MashaAllah. So it's a lot of things that you're preparing for the future, and I like how you're mentioning, like, it's not just focusing on the here and now, like, building up that social skill. It's going to help you. It's like, it's transferable, is it not? Like, we talked about the tech world, and so, but can you, enlighten us, you really bring this to life? Can you pinpoint an example? You mentioned about bringing people together, and that's a crucial skill to have. And, really, you can move mountains if you possess this ability, because if you can rally people, or you can, get everyone together and solve problems that way, definitely beautiful results can emerge. So do you have again, keeping people anonymous, what have you, do you have a specific instance where you were like, wow, I really did this? And again, in a humble brag sort of way, but was there anything like that, just so that way people can see it brought to life, so that way people are like, maybe I should develop my social skills more so I can make things happen?
A work-related experience I would tell you would be we had a very complex project that came where for example, there's different teams that work in a certain manner, which is very fast-paced because it's software-related, and then we had teams that were working on, say, the legal side and the business side, where things move very slowly. They're very rigid processes that take you anywhere from 2 months to 6 months to come through. And then you have the other side, which is the engineers, where they can basically deliver something within a week. Now, getting both of these parties to work together and being the project owner, manager that was dealing with this was obviously a huge challenge. So I was tasked with, hey, listen, you have this problem. We have 6 months to deliver this project. It's been 2 months already. We're bringing you on a bit late. Can you help us solve this problem? Now, the problem is I'm coming in halfway. I have very little context. So I'm going to spend a lot of time getting myself up to speed, going and reading all the materials, understanding all the different projects, documentation that has been done by both sides, et cetera, et cetera. Now, that would be the traditional way of going forward, which would be very time consuming. If you're a business, that's very expensive, and that's really accumulating a lot of waste. So how can you reduce that, and how can you become more, the word, efficient, especially through your communication skills, and really leverage your social skills? So in my case, it was simply about getting these different people together, understanding what their needs are, and building empathy. And that empathy was really built by just having two-way conversations with them. Really asking them powerful questions. One of the things that I mentioned in my last visit was, this book by Simon Sinek is starting with why. Try to understand the why, because when you talk to somebody and they disagree with you, don't get upset. Get curious. Try to figure out why do they feel that certain way, and then try to adjust your energy. Try to meet them at their level. And that way the conversation becomes a lot more fruitful. That way you can understand where they're at and you can meet them at their level and then take the conversation from there. So in a nutshell, in the interest of time, it really became getting these people together, making them understand their pain points, helping them build empathy for one another, and then just visualizing and surfacing this so everyone understands, okay, well, this is what I need to do. This is what I need to do. How can I help this party? How can that party help me? And then it was just basically just mutual respect, bring that visibility. And then from there, it was just getting these people to self-organize themselves and then find a solution versus giving them a solution. And all that really happened, I would say, in a very humble manner, is just getting them together and knowing how to talk to them, getting them in a room, and then you being the person that ensures, just like how you're doing as a host, asking the questions, following up, making sure the other person is heard, and then just building on top of that and leading them towards their desired outcome. And it's really simple as that. The moment you master that, or you work towards mastering that, I can absolutely promise you can achieve anything in any particular field.
MashaAllah. So you're acting as more of a facilitator in a way, like you kind of, you don't claim to have all the answers, but you just throw the right people together and you just create that storm to kind of get those conversations going. And that's really funny that you meant, like, building empathy. Like, maybe people, if they're watching and they're listening, they're like, haven't we tried this before? I mean, it may sound like it's fairly obvious, right? Where you just get a bunch of people in a room, talk to one another, and magically things will happen. But is it easier said than done? You just have
100%. No, 100%. It's definitely something that you get better at over time. It's definitely it's pretty much the mental logical way of asking the questions. So I would say, if you really want to get good at that, start looking into powerful questions. So you're starting with, like, how could you, or what would you do? So these are more open-ended, powerful questions versus asking them closed-ended questions. Did you try this? Will you do that? Because the moment you ask that, will you do that? Say yes, awesome, okay. But it's to say no, where do you go from there, right? Versus, what have you tried, right? And then I ask you what you've tried and you tell me. And then I look at the other individual and said, okay, how about you? What have you tried? And then both parties have said, okay, I've tried this, I've tried that. And then, get them to talk to one another and say, okay, well, have you tried this? Have you tried that? What kind of challenges have you had? What have you tried that has worked? What have you tried that has not worked? And then from there, when you really get good at social skills, And if we get time, I might be able to touch on a few things. Conversations just naturally start flowing between the different people that you're working with. And you're just sitting in the back and just looking at patterns and just finding, just like you are, I'm doing a lot of talking and you're coming up with those gems that is allowing this conversation to go forward. And there you go.
Mashallah. So I guess it goes to show that with social skills, people, I guess maybe they think about the talking. You got to get up on the stage or you got to, interact with one another. But I guess people underestimate these guys here, right? They underestimate the listening. That's the key.
100%.
I think maybe that's what it is. So I guess like when it's maybe just maybe like we're trying to unravel this and try to unpack it a bit more with the whole social skills. Is it really providing an opportunity or a space for people to be heard? Could it be like, is that what it is? Like people crave that. Maybe now with the social media days, people are just, just blasting whatever they want on their own platform. They go shout on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, and they're thinking that people will latch on. Is that where maybe there's that void that needs to be filled in terms of like genuine, authentic social skills, like mashallah, what you've managed to accomplish in those simple examples in the workplace?
I would say it's a very good point. That is not really social skills. That's just the one way stream. So I can talk in front of this camera and say whatever I want to, and not have to worry about what the other party has to tell me, because this is just a one-way conversation. That's what happens in social media, where people are able to just bring forward anything that comes to their mind and say it, and then go ahead and edit that, which is very simple. When you have a script in front of you, all you have to do is read it. You can edit whatever is happening, and that's it. Social skills really comes, and the definition I want to reiterate is, socializing really happens when it's more than one person and it's a two-way street, and so 2 to 3 people are there, right? At least more than 2 people in place. When you look at influencers, you have to be careful of who is an influencer and who is not. If you look at some YouTuber who just does funny skits and whatnot, that's not really social skills. That's just, this individual might be a funny person or what have you. They have this channel where they can just take whatever they're doing, present that content, and that content's ingested. But you bring them in front of, a bunch of people, you'll often notice, some actors and whatnot, they're very shy. They just don't do well. Or certain, even comedian, they might be good when they're doing a one-way conversation, but when you meet them in person, I'm now going to name some comedians that I've actually met who are Toronto-based, and it was a very awkward conversation when I met them on King Street. They really didn't have some solid communication or interpersonal skills. So there is a fine line between communication when it's one way and communication and social skills when it's multiple individuals, because when I'm saying something, you're going to hear it. When you hear something, you respond back. When you respond back, then I have to think about how I'm going to respond back. So that's really where, the communication and the social skills kick in, and we need to differentiate that.
Oh my, I feel like we could spend like hours upon hours. MashaAllah, man, you just hit, a gold mine right there with this whole, because I can tell you right now, first of all, I want to give a shout out to the comment, Fatah, MashaAllah, a YouTube viewer saying like, it was an important topic. Again, kudos, send in your comments. Yeah, there you go. That's what I'm talking, important topic, emotional intelligence, another key to developing social skills. Keep them coming. You're 100% bang on right there. Because I can tell you, this whole dichotomy, it's ironic because sometimes there's some people phenomenal on the stage, like stage performers. So it's them doing their performance, and it's just not necessarily, I don't want to say almost like one way, but it's like you kind of get that little bit of feedback. It's not like a legitimate conversation where you get that intense two-way street. It's fairly one-sided when you're performing. But yeah, you sit them down one-on-one, it's just like a different person. It's odd. But then you get the vice versa as well. There's some people, amazing conversationalists. You just sit down with them one-on-one. They open up your mind to things that you didn't even know existed. Okay, give a lecture in front of 500 people. They clam up, right? It's odd. It's a peculiar thing here and there. But maybe it just goes to show with that whole definition of social skills, that vulnerability. I have to digest what you're saying, and then I gotta, digest what I'm saying, in order for me not to like say something that's out of line or this, that, and the other. So I guess these are two different skill sets. It's not just lump them all together in one, and just because you can talk doesn't necessarily mean you can socialize, right? So
100%.
now, you want to say something? Like, it looks like you're about, because I was going to dive into
No,
something
go
else
ahead.
here. I
Go
was
ahead.
going
Go
to say,
ahead.
so now let's go into this. Let's give the viewers something that they can take home with them, in terms of tips. I'm sure there may be some things out there. I know when people are saying eye contact's a big one, and I don't want to reveal your bag of tricks, but what would you say are some social skills that's really worked well for you, that you keep in your back pocket at all times, and you're like, this really helped me out in my daily conversations, in my family, in my workplace, on Zoom, even if you want to touch on the virtual world. What would you say are some things that's really helped you out tremendously, and that you would like to pass on?
Definitely. So I'll start off with 2 points, and then there's a couple of social skills that I would say that are learnable. So if you may have some of these things, and if you don't, worry not. These are things that you can actually go out and actually spend time and learn. So very simple the bag of tricks that I would say is, it's okay to fail. It's okay to be in uncomfortable situations. Be okay with being uncomfortable. The moment you become okay with being uncomfortable, you're going to notice that you are going to grow exponentially. Your growth is going to be so phenomenal, and you'll notice that within a span of a couple of weeks to some months, all the knots that you had that's mainly in your head are going to go away, and things will become a lot more natural to you. For me, when I was an introvert, the problem with me was I was scared how the other person would perceive me. And I was always trying to build this particular persona that I would be liked. And then eventually, one of the first person to really help me with getting out of this whole bubble that I was inside of myself was my father. And he very much said, just like, be you, right? When you are yourself, everyone can see how comfortable you are in your skin. And if you're passionate about something, go ahead and talk about it. And, I was very passionate about sports, and soccer was one of the things. And that's really how I, started making friends, and I started talking to other people. I got the courage, whatever it is for you, get on that and start talking about it. So in short, the only bag of trick, and it's not really a bag of trick, it's okay to fail. Do not be scared of failure. Go ahead, fail. Every single failure is a stepping stone for you to go towards the success. Anything that doesn't work out for you is a blessing for you, because that blessing, which was quote unquote a failure, is actually helping you move towards whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has destined for you. Had I not failed in a lot of the projects that I had done in the past 13 years, I would not be able to be sitting here and be able to talk to you guys about this. I would have not gotten any of the public engagements and employment engagements that I did. It was simply because all those failures were learning skills. And believe it or not, as an adult, people really appreciate when you talk. They want to know more about your failures than your success, because they realize, and this is like a point I want all the youth to really have like golden etched up on your wall somewhere, is your failures are what helps you get towards success. It's like an iceberg. You only see a small percentage above the water. Right? That's the success, but the success is built on this massive, a bunch of different mistakes that you've done, because a true successful person doesn't keep making the same mistake over and over again. Same thing, a mu'min doesn't make the same mistake over and over again. They learn from that. Islam already tells us all these qualities. This isn't something that is new. SubhanAllah, we have such a beautiful religion that already tells us all these things. And now, we're basically just putting that into text and, talking about that and going forward. So in short, it's okay to fail. Be confident. And the confidence comes over time. No one's born confident. We just mentioned earlier in the conversation about, Musa alayhi salam asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help him with his speech and, building his confidence. Now, that being said, there's a couple of things, if Brother Muhammad, I can touch upon, where I would say, see where you find yourself in. You may already have some of these skill sets. And if you don't have some of these skill sets, which is fine, you can learn them. So one of them is being a social glue. Ask yourself, are you somebody that connects people? Is that something you're passionate about? You might be someone that calls up your friends and say, hey, guys, it's a Friday after Friday night, for example, how Brother Muhammad is, we will have our halakas, and then after the halakas, we'll all basically come together and we'll meet up. And then Brother Muhammad will be that person that's organizing everyone else, or during Ramadan when we have our iftars at, say, the Khatija Center, Brother Muhammad is basically just getting all the different individuals and the kids, the adults, the sisters who are volunteering, they're kind of being the social glue, and then from there relations are being built. That's one of the many things that if you have it, great. If you don't have it, you can work towards. Another thing is conversationalist. You have the ability of talking and facilitating. You're able to just sit down and just get people's like brain going about different topics. You don't bore them. That's another ability you have. So you may be a social glue, but you may not have the ability of being a conversationalist, or maybe you do have that, but you basically need to work on one or the other. Now, the third one, which is my personal favorite, that has helped me a lot in my early days when I was coming out of my shell as an introvert, was being a comedian. When I say comedian, it's not being a class clown, which you can be if you are. Just be respectful to the teachers. It's just like you're a funny individual. You make people laugh. You're an optimist. You bring humor, and part of social skill is really like lightening up the mood. If it's a very tense situation where you want to de-escalate things, you might come up with certain light humor and whatnot, and people tend to like that. People tend to go more towards people who are comedian, because it tends to get them to move away from their worries. So that's another one. Now, again, as I say these things, either you guys might want to make some notes or just kind of see where you fit in. Another one is a speaker. You're very comfortable in being up on stage. You're very comfortable with giving toast. You're just not scared of how people perceive you, but you're also very eloquent in how you carry yourself and how you can talk to people. Now, you may be a good speaker, but like we mentioned earlier, you may not be the best conversationalist. So once your speech is done and you come off the podium, you may not really be able to have a one-on-one conversation with someone. You might be just a very reserved individual, but who's really good at structuring their mental thoughts and actually presenting in a very eloquent manner. So far we talked about a social glue. We talked about being a conversationalist. We talked about being a comedian. We talked about being a speaker. So these four things we've talked about so far. The other one is influencer. So we already talked about an influencer could be someone that can get people to agree with them on certain thing, which is great. You have the power, and if you have that, that's amazing. There's nothing wrong with that. But do pair it with one of these other qualities where you can get people to agree with you on certain things, and you have the ability of changing people's perspective. But then with an influencer, you also have the other part that comes up is leader. So the difference between they kind of overlap, but an influencer is someone that can get people to think a certain way, but a leader is someone that can kind of get people to think a certain way but also lead them. So for example, let's just say like this coffee. So as an influencer, I might be able to change your mind about getting a silver cup, and you might like a black cup, and then you might say, what Dad told me about the silver cup, it's pretty good, I like the silver cup. But then as a leader, I might be able to get you to go and actually buy the silver cup. So that's the difference between an influencer and a leader. So you might be an influencer, you might be really good at that, you might need to work on your leadership skills. That usually happens to people in an early part of their career where they're subject matter experts. They're able to talk about certain topics and get people to understand that, which is how I started. I was a very good influencer and a conversationalist, and had like some tad bits of social glue and tad bits of being a comedian, and I'm slowly working towards becoming a better leader where I can lead people. I'd say, in my personal life, Brother Muhammad is an amazing leader because we've basically co-led, thousands of people in iftars, and I always look to him and say, subhanAllah, the way he, conducts people and actually is able to, lead them from one place to another. It's just subhanAllah. Now, another one would be a decoder. These are rare. If you're one of these people, congratulations. If you're not, again, there's like myself, there's hope. Decoders are people that are really good at understanding body languages. So sometimes when you don't say anything, but it's a communication skill, right? You're able to read people's body language. You're able to understand their energy, and then from there you're able to basically work your way through and kind of like unravel them, like what is this person thinking, how are they feeling, and how it can go forward. So there's a lot more, but I'm going to leave it to that, brother Muhammad. These few, you may be good in some, you may be really amazing in few others, and you may not even possess the other ones, but these are all skills that you can learn and you can build upon. And the more you have of these in your skill set, the better of a communicator you're going to be.
MashaAllah, man. Like one of the biggest takeaways for me is a couple of things. Number one, that it's the foundation of all this is like being okay with failure. So if that is your bedrock, if you're saying, you know what, as long as that's set in place first, you're okay. You mess up, all right, this is a stepping stone for something more. Then you can proceed. Once you identify one of your your own strengths, and it's probably the ultimate end goal. From what I gathered, it was like the leader is that you want to end up eventually getting to that point. The culmination of all your social skills is to eventually lead someone towards a good cause or towards some goodness. And if you can do that, then mashallah, then only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can reward those individuals who can really bring the movement together, right? All the prophets were leaders, right? They led to the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's very poetic, in a way. And it's nice to see the social glue, the comedian, the conversationalist, the decoder is that little rare gem, you know what I mean? The influencer. And so all these different components, mashallah, you just really one after the other. Now, as we continue, and we touched on this a little bit before, but if I can kindly ask, now let's say someone's sitting here, they're like, oh, it's COVID, pandemic, can't interact with people. And mashallah, man, when you mentioned all of our good times with the iftar, man, brings back memories. We can't have that these days, unfortunately. But
inshallah, they'll come back.
Yeah, inshallah, better and bigger and better than ever, right? Now,
Inshallah.
Let's say I'm stuck. I'm trapped between these walls. What are some resources that you could point towards? You mentioned, Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, phenomenal. I think it really gets people going. Are there any other resources that you could point towards to help people enhance their social skills, especially in a pandemic world? If so, what would you point towards and say, yeah, this will really help you out?
Honestly, pick up the phone, call your loved ones. We don't get to spend enough time with our loved ones. We're stuck at home. You have a lot of free time. I can tell you a million different resources, but let's start with the basic. If you have an iPhone, FaceTime. If you have an Android, just get on any of those social media like Snapchat, Instagram, whatever it is. Call a friend that you haven't talked to for a long time. It's going to put you in this challenging place. Like, what am I going to talk about? I haven't talked to this person in a very long time. That's fine. Be okay with, they're not going to judge you. If it's going to be awkward, perfect. You'll know next time when the awkwardness comes, how you're going to work around it. If you haven't talked to your grandparents, give them a call. Why are you calling me? I missed you. Just reignite those members in your family that you haven't talked to in a while, or your neighbor. If you're stuck, no problem. Just go outside, keep it hopefully everyone is keeping a safe distance so it can flatten the curve. Just talk. So you don't necessarily need to go online and look at these different things or be stuck in a room just because it's COVID. I mean, subhanAllah, we have technology and we have so many communication mediums that we can leverage. And I'd say the most basic one is just pick up the phone and talk to a friend. The talking is really going to help. And then ask yourself, am I just the one talking? Am I listening? Do I really care about what the other person has to say? Or I just want to talk about what I have to say? And then also have a mental note. What did that person really talk about? What are the 5 top things that we discussed in the conversation? I talked about my car. I talked about my coffee. I talked about my day. I talked about me. And then the moment you start talking about just me, you're like, okay, I'm a really good speaker, but maybe I'm not a good conversationalist. Or if I got 2 people together and, I'm having a group conversation, am I a social glue? And was I just quiet in there? Maybe I am a social glue. Maybe I'm not a comedian. Maybe my jokes weren't really there. Maybe I was influenced to get 10 of my friends to get together and for us to get on Skype or Zoom and talk together. maybe I'm that social glue, but there's other things that are missing. So it's very simple. Everything that we talked about today, you just need to have a phone, right? And it's not like back in the days where you're basically sending pigeon mail and it's taking weeks on ends for the conversations to happen. I guess back then it was a lot better in terms of just people, but just talk. Just make sure I want to put it this way. The most successful people always look for opportunities in anything that comes their way. They're opportunists. The richest people, the most successful people, they find the best opportunities through chaos. When 2020 happened and COVID happened, so many people, there was a massive exchange of wealth that happened when people were complaining about losing their job and whatnot. That's because they're stuck in this little bubble of safety. And everyone who really truly made like a lot of success in whatever form, they went outside the box. They were good at these skill sets, and then they found opportunities. So this is a perfect time for you to take time, pick up the phone, call your loved ones, interact with them, play online games, whatever it is, or just Friday halakas with your friends and family. You get everyone on FaceTime. Be like, we're going to talk about this particular hadith 7 o'clock every day on a Friday. Boom. And then just, work on your skills from there. That's what I would say. Keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Keep it simple. A regular phone call can go a long way. I know there's this this is a whole separate subtopic, where there's this phone anxiety. I don't know about you. Have you this is like an actual thing where people, get paranoid a little bit when they start seeing the phone ring, or, if there's no caller ID, oh my gosh, or you pick up the phone and I guess you're leaving a voicemail. Oh my gosh, this is for some, this is a whole. Do you have a quick comment to say about this? So for people not to diminish or not to kind of marginalize or cast it aside if it's a legitimate thing, what would you say if anyone has maybe some slight phone anxiety? What would you anything that you would offer that just to kind of ease it up a bit, or even if it's your own family and friends? Maybe for some folks it might be a step too far. I don't know. What would you? I was just thinking about that as we're talking. It may seem easy, but you never know.
Talk to the only competition you have. And you'll say, what do you mean? Go in front of a mirror and look at the only competition that you have. And that's you. And why I say that is, if there's anything that you want to practice, go in front of a mirror and just talk. You're talking to yourself. You can practice that with yourself. There's no one judging you, right? And if you have whatever anxiety, build on that. Anxiety happens when it's the fear of the unknown, right? The fear of the unknown only goes away when the unknown becomes a known. And the only way for the unknown to become a known is for you to actually go and find out. So what I'd say is, just like anything, last time I came on on the thing, I was 195 pounds. Now I'm 160. And what happened that whole time is very slow, but consistency that I took. I basically went ahead and I just did everything consistently versus before, just go and jump in and then just go back oh my God, I just love my pizza and my shawarma and everything else so much, right? So going back to your anxiety, I had gym anxiety, right? I just was not comfortable with going to the gym, but it's just slow consistency. So if you have any form of anxiety, especially phone anxiety, go in front of a mirror, talk to yourself. It's one of the rituals I'll share with you, with everyone. One thing I always do is, I go in front of a mirror, not in front of the washroom, because you don't want to be talking in the washroom, but in front of any other mirror. And I talk to myself. I motivate myself. I'm like, this is what I'm going to be doing today. This is what my objectives are. I just kind of make a mental note of 3-4 points, and I just talk to myself. I'm like, I know you can do it, and you'll do it better than yesterday because you're my only competition. And when you do that, you don't have to worry about anyone else. You don't have to please anyone else. Your fear of failure diminishes because you're competing with the former self of yours from yesterday. Did you improve? Did you become better? Because guys, I have to emphasize this. We're Muslims. We have to be alpha Muslims and alpha Muslimas in anything and everything we do. We just can't be second best in anything. That's not why we were born. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with the primary thing that we had that I have to emphasize, is to spread the deen of Islam. When we do that, we have to be good with our communication skills, because da'wah can be given by anyone. And da'wah is given, like I said, in so many different ways. So social skills is extremely important. Take care of yourself mentally, physically, emotionally. Verbally, have the ability of some of the points I talked about. When you do that, I mean, put it this way: what do you get in return? You get Jannah. And I saw this funny thing on Instagram. It's like, imagine getting all the free shawarmas in Jannah. Sign me up. So hey, listen, whatever floats your boat. You want to get Jannah, work on the social skills, and remember, you're your only competition. And as simple as that.
MashaAllah, brother Taha. Jazakallah khair, man. For those who take that, first of all, again, I wanted to take this moment. Congratulations on your weight loss journey. I mean, Spa, I'm not just saying this because I know you and this and that. Truly, like, the whole internal transformation that you've had, Spa, phenomenal. So I want to give you kudos on that, and then transferring that over to, the little bit at a time. So if picking up the phone or socializing is a bit of a problem for some, looking in the mirror slowly but surely, and then when you feel comfortable, when you get, or maybe sometimes you get to a point where you kind of have to take that leap of faith and say, all right, you know what, I got to do it, but little incremental steps, but it's worth it in the end. MashaAllah, brother Taha. So I hate to say this, I hate to say it, I always say it, but I hate to say it, like, all good things must come to end. Phenomenal conversation, mashallah, about social skills. Such a topic when you package it correctly, when you package it in a way that really resonates, mashallah. It's amazing to see. So, seeing you again is always a joy, and I'd be remiss if I didn't give you this final opportunity. Let's say there's a brother, there's a sister watching this saying, you know what, brother Taha, it all makes sense what you're talking about. Hamza, it's wonderful to hear that, maybe you were in your shell, and now you've managed slowly but surely to break out of it. All these tools at our disposal, but I don't know. I'm even the whole fear of failure and just being okay with it. Yeah, but it's tough. It's not easy. I don't know if I can do it. I have no one by my side. I'm my own family members are against me. The whole world is against me, and I feel like I'm alone. And who wants to talk to me? And what kind of social? I'm gonna keep messing up. What would be your parting words of gems of wisdom for this individual to help them see better days, make them feel more better about themselves, and to achieve greatness in the world, one day at a time?
Oh, that's a very heavy ending question, but that's a very, very important one. Extremely important, because I mean, mental health is key, is obviously key. And touching on that, I tell you again, like, keeping it simple. What's the worst thing that can happen? Ask yourself, what's the worst thing can happen? The worst thing is you'll find out something you didn't know before. If you failed by trying something, the worst thing is now you know. It's not the worst thing, it's the best thing. Now you know what you didn't know before, and then you can use that as a foundational building block. Think about, you want to build a castle, and this castle will be the best castle ever, and this castle is your social skills. Because when you master social skills, you can basically do amazing things. Islam tells us, surround yourself, the people you surround yourself, you'll be raised with them. So surround yourself with good people. So one of my mentors, said, practice OQP. OQP stands for only quality people. Surround yourself with great people, and these people will basically help you level up. But for you to get to that point, you need to break out the shell where you can at least make the first step. When you make the first step, you'll make the second step. You may fall. You may, you may basically get tired or whatever the case is in your situation. The moment you make your first step, it's going to lead to your next one and next one. Before you know it, you look back and you say, Subhanallah. Also, when you get up and you're making slow progress, don't stop. Because when you stop, you have to ask yourself, look how far I've gotten. Do I want to go back to that? Think more towards where do you want to go. Give yourself a vision, some form of vision of where you want to be in a week, in a month, in 3 months, 6 months. Write it down. Get a journal and write it down. You will be amazed that the moment you transfer what's in your thoughts onto a piece of paper and you look at it every single day, and then you look at that and you go in front of a mirror and you talk to yourself about that, you're literally bringing your what you want, your imagination, into existence by speaking it. You're telling the universe, this is what I want, and the universe will deliver. So if you want to achieve success, you want to achieve greatness, you want to be really good at all of these things, and it's all in your head, break out of that. Take the first step. It's okay to fail. All I'm going to leave you guys with is you have the power of asking the universe to give you what you want by simply seeing it into existence. So, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and take the first step.
MashaAllah, what are we waiting for? What are we waiting for? It's now or never. MashaAllah, Brother Taha, Jazakallah khairan once again for all of your insights and for joining us today. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all our efforts. And hopefully if one person took something away from this entire conversation of social skills, I think it's a job well done. Alhamdulillah. Even still, MashaAllah, the fact that we're here, giving it are all amazing stuff. So Jazakallah khairan, Brother Taha. Looking forward to hearing bigger and better things about you down the line.
Inshallah.
All right. I want to talk to the viewers for a moment, please, and thank you. MashaAllah, Canada Today Youth Edition right here. Talked about social skills. And so at the end of the day, social skills, it's worth it. Is it tough? Yeah, it is. It's not easy sometimes to interact with people. Sometimes you can come across the wrong way. I got to worry about this person's opinion. Oh, I got to be careful of my word choice. I got to make sure that I say things with the right tone. Whoa, what about my body language? There's a lot of things here. But mashallah, it's innate. We have it built inside of us. We have the ability, alhamdulillah, for a good many of us, like we've been going through our lives. Now it's just a matter of, can we take it to the next level? So I'll leave you with this. Reach through speech. Just reach through speech. And inshallah khair, if you're able to articulate yourself, you're able to put together, you have that whole package of social skills. Inshallah, we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will see things and open doors for you that you've never seen or couldn't have imagined or even dreamed of or even conceived of. It all starts with social skills. And so with that, tune in every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is your brother, Muhammad Maxwell Hassan. Stay strong, stay safe, stay proud to be Muslims. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.